Well, welcome to my greenhouse. It is the end of April and I've got quite a few things in bloom. What I thought I'd do is show you some of the Dendrobium orchids that require a dry winter rest. The advantage for me in growing on the central coast of California in a relatively unheated greenhouse is the dry winter rest Dendrobiums don't need to be watered from about Thanksgiving through Valentine's Day. And if they're kept quite dry during that period of time, they can take temperatures down into the upper 30s without any difficulty. And so several times this past winter, the greenhouse fell at night and early morning to the low 30s. And we did get, for the first time in about 20 years, a light dusting of snow on 2 mornings. Yet the dendrobiums that require a dry winter rest did fine, and as you'll see, they're blooming quite nicely. So the first I'll show you is Dendrobium aggregatum. Got 3 flower spikes. One unfortunately got hung up inside the net pot and didn't grow to its full extent. But you can see I'm not the best grower of this orchid. The pseudobulbs are somewhat wrinkled, and I've seen some growers from our Orchid Society, and that's the 5 Cities Orchid Society in Rio Grande, have had much nicer looking plants, very plump pseudobulbs with multiple flower spikes. I'm happy to just get 2. We do have a nice oncidium down here that's just come into bloom. Now we'll move down the greenhouse a bit and we'll show you the next dendrobium that just started blooming. And this is a very aptly named Dendrobium fimbriata. And you can see from the lip is highly filamentous growths, fimbria, hence the name Dendrobium fimbriata. Really stands out. You can see this orchid from miles away on the greenhouse, and it just started blooming. Moving down, this is an orchid I got several years ago from Asbel Orchids, and it is a hybrid of Dendrobium flexuosum. Not sure what the parents are. Probably, well, I don't want to speculate, but it sure is a nice looking flower, and even the flower blossoms, the cluster, as they're developing, are quite attractive. So that's a very nice plant, and again, kept completely dry with maybe a sprinkle of water every week to 2 weeks during the winter, and it took temperatures in the high 30s, no problem. My greenhouse also gets into the hundreds in the afternoons for about 2-3 weeks in September, August or September. And so these are really tough orchids that can take the extremes of lows in the winter and highs in the summer. This one I got a division from Eric Kalenda of the 5 Cities Orchid Society, Dendrobium Isaacs Selena Marie. And it's bloomed very regularly, and it's looking like a couple kekis are going to get sold at an upcoming 5 Cities auction. But nice little flower, and again, tough little orchid. And then the last orchid I'll show you on the inside of the greenhouse is Dendrobium jenksoni. And this I've got mounted on cork, and again, dry winter rest. You can see it really likes expanding and growing on the shady side of this piece of cork. And this is just hanging in the greenhouse. Second one did not bloom as much this year. There's still some buds developing. This one's in a little shadier spot than the one on the edge. I think that accounts for the fewer flowers. So that's it for the dendrobiums requiring a dry winter rest inside the greenhouse. And in a minute I'll take you outside and show you what I'm growing outdoors. Okay, here we are outside the greenhouse on pretty much eastern and southern exposure, but I do have wisteria growing on a trellis over this area, so you can see it's fairly shady, and a new dawn rose that blocks a lot of the sun. So down at the base of the greenhouse, these are my Dendrobium speciosums, and they grow out here all year long. A few months ago, there was actually snow on the leaves and the flower buds, and they came through fine. There was just a little bit of damage to some of the tips of some of the flowers, but as you can see, blooming quite profusely the last week of April, and again taking temperatures in the hundreds for a few weeks in the summertime and down into the low 30s and actually high 20s in this case for a few mornings in winter. And we've got a little iris next to them. So those are the Dendrobium speciosums growing outside in Templeton, California at an elevation of about 1,600 feet. Pretty remarkable.